As companies here continue to get a leg up from the government to increase their productivity, the food and beverage industry has weighed in on the debate. Now, F&B outlet owners say that in order for them to be more productive, the consumer culture in Singapore also has to change, which means that your expectations and mine of self-service or service in general may require a paradigm shift. During the budget last Friday, Finance Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam brought up the issue of changing social norms like consumer habits. For example, a simple change in expectations could avoid a growing dependence on foreign workers and create quality jobs. But the challenge really is, if we think about it, whether our society is ready to make that change. So to discuss the issue with me is Associate Professor Kirpal Singh from Singapore Management University. So Kirpal, thank you very much for joining me today. Always good to have you here.
Hi.
So DP and Tharman made a very relevant point last Friday, changing social norms, our habits as consumers. So what do you think is about us that we shun the concept of self-service?
Too many years of being served. Most Singaporeans grow up being served, and I think this is becoming a very, very menacing problem with us, because the more we depend on others to serve us, the more irksome the situation is going to get. And in fact, looking ahead, the development of a good, high-quality domestic economy can be compromised if we don't learn to serve ourselves.
So you're saying that we become very dependent on cheap, available labor. And, you know, at home, of course, a lot of us have domestic helpers to help us out with everything. So we kind of expect that things will be handed to us on a silver plate.
I think so. And I think the long-term effect of this is going to be quite negative, because I've seen a lot of people just become so complacent and just refuse to even do something. I mean, but you know what, the situation is quite ironic that even the Singaporeans who are served 24 hours a day by others, when they're overseas in the cultures that our finance minister spoke about, they're very ready to help themselves. So why this difference? I mean, why once we cross borders, we become different personalities? And I think this is a very critical issue that we need to address, and the sooner we can address it at all levels, at home, in kindergartens, universities, schools, the better it is.
It really takes a concerted effort on all levels of society to actually achieve this, isn't it?
I think so. And also I think the quality of the service is affected. I mean, take a simple example, right? Most of us are very happy to line up at the wonton mee stall or at the, prata stall, but then we are not willing to take our own plates and dispose them where we are supposed to put them or dispose them. We expect other people to do it. And I suppose those who are self-righteous amongst us would say, well, we are providing jobs for the, these poor people from abroad and things like that. But that compromises everything. I mean, one, is a very patronizing attitude on our part, because we can always give better jobs to these people from abroad. But more importantly, we can improve the quality of our own. I mean, you take the example of Japan. I mean, I was just speaking with one of your colleagues just now, and he very rightly pointed out that in Japan, for example, from the, ordinary security guard to the person who serves us, they are all very highly paid. And so they take pride, and there's a lot of dignity in the job. And this is very, very critical. And I think we have, quite a long way to go before we get that kind of culture.
Okay, so how do you think we can convince Singaporeans that every job has its mastery, deserves its own recognition?
Two things. One is, at the lower level, just make it mandatory. I mean, there's nobody to serve us. You either serve yourself, or like one of the episodes of Friends over TV, where if you don't wash your own dishes, the dishes just pile up until you can't stand it anymore. And then you either fight, kill each other, or you wash the dishes. Most people resort to wash the dishes. That's number one. Number two, somehow inculcating a sense of pride that there is nothing wrong, there's nothing low about taking our own dishes, washing our own dishes if necessary, lining up in good queues and doing all of that. That adds to a very healthy, positive, collegial kind of culture at the workplace. And I think this would take away a lot of the problems that we now face. Also, I think, at SMU we are trying to do this in terms of service. We are trying to encourage our students to become part-time workers in the restaurants, cafes around us, so that the quality of interaction between the person serving, if we need service, you pay for it, because if you want to be served well, then you pay well, right? At least there's a level of good conversation, to say the least, which some of us find absolutely lacking in Singapore. I mean, the guy is serving you by looking elsewhere, quite often. So that kind of habit has to change, I think, very, very readily and very quickly. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Kirpal. Pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me, Ian.
And that was Professor Kirpal Singh talking about service standards in Singapore.